and watch and listen to the rally, right? We couldn't see him, but we could hear him. So we walked up, and probably 5 to 7 minutes of Trump speaking. I'm estimating here. I have no idea, But we noticed a guy crawling, bear crawling up the roof of the building beside us, 50 feet away from us. So we're standing there, we're pointing at the guy crawling up the roof.
And he had a gun, right?
He had a rifle.
A rifle.
We could clearly see him with a rifle. Absolutely. We're pointing at him. The police are down there running around on the ground. We're like, hey, man, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle. And the police are like, huh, what? Like they didn't know what was going on. We're like, hey, right here on the roof. We can see him from right here. We see him. He's crawling. And next thing you know, I'm thinking to myself, why is Trump still speaking? Why have they not pulled him off the stage? I'm standing there pointing at him for 2-3 minutes. Secret Service is looking at us from the top of the barn. I'm pointing at that roof, just standing there like this. And next thing you know, 5 shots ring out.
Wow. That is a BBC interview with one of the guys that was right outside of the security perimeter. And they saw, as you could hear with what he was saying, they saw this guy accessing the rooftop. They saw him. And it wasn't just him. I think it was reported, like 50 some odd bystanders saw this guy. And they were for minutes trying to alert law enforcement about it. There's a great side-by-side. And first off, welcome back. We're at the bottom of this first hour. Dana Loesch back from vacation with you. There was a great side-by-side video. It's a little long. I don't know if we want to play all of it. But it puts it in really sharp perspective. And it's matched up perfectly. It was an account on X that did this. And they matched up perfectly the video from the bystanders that they took, where they were like, from the moment they saw the guy. And you can see on one side, it's the bystanders video. And they're saying this is the moment they saw the guy on the roof. And then they were like, wait, that's not right. We need to tell law enforcement. From Trump speaking on the other side. And because this really puts it into realistic, sharp perspective. The amount of time that passed. I really want you to understand this. It's a little long. Please bear with me, though, because it will shock you. Watch this.
He was doing his job. I wouldn't even be doing this.
The left is the bystanders video. The right is Trump.
The Atlantic, maybe the Pacific.
Yeah, someone's on top of the roof. Look. There he is right there.
It's in sync with each other. Both videos.
Right there, see him? He's laying down. See him?
Yeah, he's laying down.
And son, I'm here with you fighting like hell to get a senator.
What's happening?
And to make sure we take back the White House, because if we do, we're going to make America better than ever before. We're going to make it.
Yeah, look.
And it's
There he
not
is.
easy, because we have millions and millions of people in our country that should be
You see the guy's clear as day.
dangerous people, criminals. We have criminals. We have drug dealers. We have people that should not be here. And it's much tougher than if.
They're surrounded by police.
We're the strongest border ever. In recorded history, we're the best border. In fact, if they could ever put up a chart, I don't know if they can do. Do you guys have access to that chart that I love so much? You don't mind if I go off teleprompter, do you?
Police.
Because these teleprompters are so damn boring. I try and explain that.
From the moment they first saw.
Wow.
And they're telling you while this clock is running, police, there's a guy on the roof. There's a guy on the roof.
My guys, take a look at that chart.
50 some, and here's the side-by-side again. Here we go. 50 some odd bystanders. Right now what they're doing is they're trying to tell police there's a guy on the roof with a gun. They could see the rifle. They're telling police, trying to get Secret Service, there's a guy on the roof with a gun.
Take a look at that. So that
And it was 2 full minutes. We're letting this clock run because I want people to understand how long it was from the moment they spotted him until the first shots rang out. And they're desperately trying to get police's attention the entire time. You can see people in the other video. They're running over. They know something's happening. And then there it is. At that point, you could hear in the other video, people were screaming, there's a guy on the roof, there's a guy on the roof. And all hell breaks out. Don't tell me that you can't armchair quarterback this. Do not tell me First off, can I just tell you something about the area that he was speaking in Pennsylvania? These are people that know guns. These are people that hunt. A lot of these, I mean, this is veteran country where he was at. That's one of the reasons why, and I made this remark to a friend of mine, a combat veteran. I said, I don't know, I kind of have a feeling that one of the reasons that, you know, a lot of the people that heard the gunshots, they didn't react at first because they're used to hunting, they're used to being around. And my friend kind of laughed, was like, you know, that area, you're not wrong. I mean, he's in veteran country. He's, you know, this is not like, you know, Beverly Hills. And so, and, you know, people kind of kept their cool. They didn't rush out of that. They just were looking around, looking where the threat was. It is amazing to me that it took that long. So don't tell me you can't armchair quarterback it. So what the hell happened? The American people are owed answers. We are owed answers on this. Because we go through an election, we go through this cycle, and we have a very protected process in the United States. We are so unbelievably unique. The bloodless transfer of power. And I'm telling you, there are questions. The bystanders saw, maybe the bystanders should have called the ATF and said, oh, hey, there's a dog on the roof. Maybe they should have done that. If they wanted that threat neutralized, maybe that's what they should have done. And what gets me is when the FBI said, oh, we think he acted alone. Really? And you're telling me that everybody here, they couldn't see this dude? But they can hunt down every single person who skipped past the Capitol on January 6th, run them down, get all of them. Really? But they're going to shrug before much is known about the guy. Oh, we think he acted by himself. There was this story I told you about the local cop who confronted this guy. New York Post has the story. Moments before shots rang out, as all these bystanders spotted him on the roof of this, 130 yards from the stage. 130 yards from the stage. Police were notified. One officer, according to the New York Post, climbed the ladder to investigate. This is according to numerous law enforcement officials who told the Associated Press this on the condition of anonymity. So they're telling on their guy. The officer, whose department had been enlisted by the Secret Service to help with security, encountered the murderer who pointed his rifle at him. The officer then backed down the ladder. That's when Crooks immediately took aim and fired shots. I don't know why the officer wouldn't immediately point his gun and even at the very least, like duck behind, duck under the roof line and then point your gun over the roof line. I don't know why he wouldn't do that. I got questions about that. So now the House has initiated an investigation into this. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer said that they're calling the Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle. They're going to have a hearing on July 22nd. Is anything going to come of it? I don't know. But this is a catastrophic. There's a lot of genuine questions over the DEI-ification of the Secret Service. And don't get mad at the people bringing it up. Because we didn't bring it up. The damn head of Secret Service brought it up. Kimberly Cheadle brought it up. This is what blows my mind. And no pun intended here. But when you have these department heads that get in and they're like, oh, we're going to increase women representation. We're going to do all of this. We're going to increase the number of women. We're going to make that a big thing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, well, why are you, what? Why is that a big promotion for you? Cheadle was filmed in an interview bragging about the diversity in Secret Service. And she was, had been a real big promoter of that, et cetera, et cetera. Are you capable? That's all I care about. So don't tell people that they can't talk about the DEI-ification of this or ask questions about this because the people didn't bring it up. Kim Cheadle brought this up. And now Kim Cheadle has an attempted assassination of a former president on her watch. Audio soundbite 24, flashback. She was talking about DEI compliancy with Secret Service. Listen.
To expand hiring, they're aiming to have 30% women recruits by 2030 and even allowed YouTube influencer Michelle Carre to train with agents.
But I'm very conscious as I sit in this chair now of making sure that we need to attract diverse candidates and ensure that we are developing and giving opportunities to everybody in our workforce, and particularly women.
That workforce will be pivotal for the 2024 campaign season, which for the first time includes a former president who already has lifetime protection. Agents were there when Donald Trump was arraigned in
She's
New York.
served in Secret Service for 28 years. She was involved in the evacuation of Cheney on September 11th, etc. She was director of last year. Remember, the agency deleted a lot of its text messages from January 6th. They said recruitment and retention are challenges. The Secret Service's departure rate was 48% last year because it is a high demand job. I get that. That's not an excuse. Don't throw this out to me as excuses, because we don't tickle the fancy of mediocrity here in this country, especially when it comes to protection of the highest office in the land. Here's the reason why I bring this up. Because there are a lot of people, and I've seen some of it now on social media, there were a lot of people saying, oh, well, women shouldn't be in executive detail. I've had executive detail before. I've had to after Parkland and when I was working with a gun rights organization. There were literally people who were trying to get in my house, like physically trying to get in my home. I would go to different events and there would be people who would try to rush wherever we were. So I had for a period of time, and Kane's met them, a detail. I've had men and women. A lot of times, if it's in a huge crowded area, obviously you have several tiers of it. I had a lot of women details, because women having women agents, it's less obvious because you then don't know immediately who the security targets are, because those people they're targets. If there's your security, they're targets. But also these women were more muscular than I was and a little taller than I was, and they could manhandle me if they needed to get me out of the way. I bring this up because I need people to stop making this about a gender or a sex thing, and it's about physicality, and it's about statistics. When I've done I've done so much training. Obviously, I'm not in armed forces, and I'm not a special agent. I've done a lot of training, though. I've been to Oklahoma. I've been all over the country doing training in morning, noon, and night, all types of weather, hours of training. And one of the interesting things that I learned, because I've done a number of different drills where you go through, like you're clearing houses or you're clearing what is like a makeshift school, and you go through and the instructors are screaming orders at you. And one of the things that I found out was I was outperforming the men in every single one of these drills. And it's not just me. I wasn't the exclusion. Every other lady did too. Now, why is that? The women, the instructors told us, usually always outperform the men in these drills, because the women take instruction better than men. But there's a flip side to this. In the real-time, real space environment, when you're out there in reality, and you're not in a makeshift training house, and you're not with instructors that are walking on these beams and screaming orders at you, when you are in real space, it's flipped. Because there is a shift that takes place, these instructors have told me, where men zero in on the objective in this real-time environment, and women are always, it is our nature. We immediately want to make sure, you okay? And we kind of look at the bigger picture, whereas men will zero in. It's just a man versus woman thing, and it's not a strength or a weakness of either side. It is a different objective and a different capability. And if people didn't have their heads so far up their backsides, they would see that these two things complement each other instead of using one as a way to denigrate the other. That being said, when it comes to Secret Service protection, I'm not in favor of women protecting men, like the President of the United States, unless it's a specific requirement. Now, there are exclusions. There are women who are absolute exclusions to that rule and perform just as good, sometimes better than the men. But that's an exception. That's why they are exceptional. The reason I say this is because I was watching on stage. I was watching when Trump was on stage, and this woman was the first agent in the front, and she was, I thought she actually was performing very well. But he's like, have you ever met Trump? I have. I've known him for a decade. He's tall. He's a huge guy. He's over 6'3", and he's very broad. And if he doesn't want to move, he's not going to move. I don't know if you remember, and I'm going to talk about this later. I want to compare the Secret Service response from the attempted Reagan assassination to now, because they manhandled Reagan. They literally picked that man up and threw him in the back of a car. They were trying to move Trump, and he did not want to move. He wanted to get his shoes. And the woman in front, you could tell, was kind of struggling to cover all his vital organs in the front. That was one of the first things I noticed, because that training thing where they cocoon you was one of the things that they drilled us on, and we participated in. It was very interesting. And when you're not as big as your principal, which is what they call the person you're protecting, when you are not as big and you are not capable of overpowering them and getting them and they're not responding, that's a problem. That's a security problem. And one last quick thing. It reminds me of Zack Snyder's 300 when Leonidas was talking to the deformed guy from Sparta who wanted to join the 300. And he followed Leonidas and the Spartan army to face off against the king of Persia, against Xerxes. And Leonidas said, can you raise your shield? Can you show me what you can do? And the guy couldn't raise his shield. And Leonidas is being very kind. And he said, I'm not doing this, maliciously, but I need everybody to be able to perform at top notch, because if you can't, then you're making a target out of the guy behind you. And if he drops, he's making a target out of the guy behind him. And we have to have every link physically strong. He wasn't saying that to be mean. And I'm telling you what, it's either about the objective or it's about you. And if it's about you, then you are idolizing yourself higher than the objective and you are unsuitable for the job. If you can't focus on the objective over self, you're unsuitable for the job. It is about protecting. It is about making sure that there are no gaps in security. This is not social experimentation. Now, like I said, there are some exceptions to that rule, which is why they're exceptional. But I have serious questions about some of this stuff. I know that they're hemorrhaging staff, but we need to get to the bottom of this. It's a real problem.